Hi everyone, RFG here with a review for the free Throes of the Watchmaker DLC for Sea of Stars, available on PC, PS4, 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series consoles, developed and published by Sabotage Studio. This was one of my favorite games from 2023, and even though I was aware that a story DLC was in the works, it was nice to finally see its official release. For those who aren't familiar with Sea of Stars, it's an isometric turn-based RPG with real-time elements for battle, starring Valere and Zale, two Solstice warriors who are joined by other characters on their quest of defeating monsters created by the Fleshmancer. Besides the combat, which I thought was handled really well and how it implemented its real-time mechanics, it has unique battle skills for each of its playable characters, including combination abilities and ultimate skills, and a battle mechanic that allows you to prevent enemy skills from being used by destroying locks using attacks with the correct typing. The game also features a classic RPG explorable overworld, multiple town hub areas with characters to interact with, and dungeon areas with puzzles and traversal mechanics that were generally fun to figure out and go through. While it has a lot of inspiration from some classic RPGs, it provides plenty of its own unique gameplay to differentiate itself. Its story, which I felt didn't really start off all too special, does pick up at a fair amount of time, then keeps a pace that doesn't really slow down. There are a lot of interesting moments and characters to meet, including the Watchmaker, which this DLC uses as one of its key background characters. Since its release, there were a few updates that added to the gameplay, including the somewhat large Dawn of the Equinox update from 2024, so some of the new additions like mystery locks and 3-player couch co-op are also part of the Throes of the Watchmaker DLC, though I haven't tried any of the co-op functions myself. If you're worried about spoiling the story for yourself, this DLC is only available after clearing the game at least once, so there's no real fear of spoilers as you would have to experience most of the story before beginning the DLC anyway. You can start the actual DLC almost immediately after viewing the credits and loading the save from your cleared game file. After going out to the world map from loading your cleared game file, you'll automatically receive a message in a bottle from Hortense, who's aboard the Vespertine. Following the prompts and directions from the characters gets you acquainted with the story of the DLC, including the nicely animated cutscene explaining the Watchmaker's role in it. After the cutscenes, you'll obtain the Dialycus, a key item that allows your characters to shrink down and enter Horloge, the tiny clockwork world where the DLC takes place and other areas within. Keep in mind that even though this is post-game DLC, it's almost an entirely standalone portion of the game. The story connection is directly related to in-game characters and events, but a bit after entering Horloge, all of your current equipment, items, skills, and combos will become inaccessible, and alternative ones will be obtained and earned throughout the DLC. You will still have access to any relics that you've acquired in the main game, which are specialty items that can make certain aspects of the game easier or harder for you, so you're free to go into the menu and turn any of them on or off to help balance out the difficulty for you. Due to story reasons, you also will have access to the rest of your party members besides Valere and Zale, who both receive class changes that match the carnival-themed aesthetic of Horloge, but you do gain the Artificer as a new third playable party member. Even with the class changes for Valere and Zale and the Artificer as a new playable character, battles don't fundamentally change as the real-time mechanics still work and flow in the same turn-based manner as before. The MP system remains the same, with each character skill using a different amount of MP, and basic attacks can be used to gain MP back. Combo attacks still use its own point system instead of MP and is gained in the same way as before, by taking turns and breaking enemy skill locks. Combo points still max out at 3 for use. Ultimate skills and swap aren't usable in the DLC, though the latter makes sense due to the limited party, but you can still switch which party member can act when they're available. The item system is largely the same as the main game. Select an item and it'll be consumed when used, though there are differences in what items are usable and how much each item affects your party members. The biggest changes to the combat are that attack types are different, and that Valere's and Zale's new class skills aren't just visual counterparts. Each skill that they get access to have new typings, timing mechanics, and new behaviors. The Artificer has its own timing for their main attack, doesn't really share any skills with previous party members, and even their attack and skill typings are only part of the DLC. Regular attacks still generate live mana that you can use for boosting damage and attack typing for attacks and certain skills. Maximum boosting charges remains at 3. Exploration is largely the same as the main game. You still have an overworld map to explore, though it is understandably smaller. You do eventually gain a train complete with the whistle to travel with. There's a limited number of fishing spots on the world map to reel in goodie bags, but also a decent number of new dungeon areas which are actually pretty lengthy that still require a good amount of varied puzzles to solve and traversal exploration to clear, which means you do have access to your grapple for the entire DLC. The town of Horloge is the only town/hub area in Throes of the Watchmaker, but there is a lot to explore here and not everything is accessible from the start. A handful of new minigames are available based on skills you can acquire for your characters, and there are a few new opponents for the Wheels minigame that you'll be able to challenge after unlocking a new figure. There are some shops available in Horloge where you can buy items, recipes, equipment, and a number of other items that you can with tokens, the main currency for the DLC. You can earn tokens by selling some of the valuables you can earn in Horloge and through battles. Battles also earn new experience, but like Valere and Zale's class change, your previous experience and levels are reset for Renown in place of party level. Gaining Renown increases each character's stats by a set amount. You can gain a maximum of 6 Renown levels and also gain a battle skill for certain characters depending on the level, along with some combos being learned. Not all combos are earned through Renown, so just like the main game, there's a lot to gain by exploring all of the areas you come across. There are other additions, like how new ingredients and recipes are required to cook items at campfires, a new puzzle component that becomes available partway through the DLC to be used in dungeon areas, and how the Dialecus, the key item you receive to enter Horloge, is used to access a number of other puzzle areas. Throes of the Watchmaker, despite remaining fairly standalone, also adds more story to the characters involved. Besides some additional backstory to the Watchmaker, you do get some additional insight into Valere and Zale's characters, with the Artificer adding a bit to round out the playable cast interactions. Its overall story is pretty entertaining, with a lot of the entertaining moments coming from the characters introduced in it, who each have their own detailed sprites, along with the new enemies and its additional bosses. The DLC in general looks pretty remarkable and genuinely feels like there was just as much thought and care put into it as the main game. Almost all of the art, from what I've noticed, is brand new, with a good amount of exclusive animated cutscenes added for the DLC. The same goes for the music, which was already great in the main game and that continues in Throes of the Watchmaker. It can be pretty lengthy, but is paced well, especially with what's available in between the story segments. If you are looking to spend more time in Horloge, you can find the optional time runes spread out in Throes of the Watchmaker. It might take a little more or less time depending on if you have certain relics on or off, as the DLC is considered to be more difficult by default, but even if a battle is lost, you should never be set that far back even without setting a manual save point. A limited amount of optional items that are able to increase your character stats are also hidden and spread out in Horloge to find. If you enjoyed your previous time with Sea of Stars, then Throes of the Watchmaker is well worth revisiting the game for, as it contains some splendid moments and is a great combination of familiar and new. The decision to treat it basically as a standalone segment of the game was a fitting choice, since this does function like a new scenario, but retains the main game sense of being fairly accessible or challenging, with or without your use of relics. If you've tried Sea of Stars and weren't into it, this DLC isn't likely going to change your mind, especially because of its late access point, but I think those who already appreciate the main portion of Sea of Stars can find more to enjoy with Throes of the Watchmaker. And that's it for me. Let me know what you think below. Thanks. Bye.